We have, I don't know, close to a couple hundred people on the call. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, but I want everybody to know that we are recording this. Got this scheduled for about an hour, so we'll take 45 minutes to an hour. Depends on how many questions everybody has. Because of so many people on the call, I don't know if I'll get to everyone's questions. So what I would ask you to do if you have a question is that you also put your email address in there. So if I don't get it answered during the call, I'll certainly email you. There's also another way that you can stay in touch or get answers to your questions. It's easy to get on my list. Just send a text to Make More at 22828. During this presentation today, we're going to talk about some reports, and you might want some of these reports. If you do, you will be able to get them. Just text Make More to 22828. I'll be happy to get those out to you. And I'll also have your email address, so if you have questions, I'll be able to respond to your questions. So again, just shoot a text out to Make More, 22828. Let me introduce myself to you. My name is Lloyd Lofton. My website is lloydlofton.com. My contact information I just put on the bottom of the screen. That's my email address at lloyd@lloydlofton.com. And my cell phone number. The reason I give that is because frequently after webinars, people get a hold of me with a question or they have some particular situation that's germane to what is going on with them, and they want to ask a question about it. And as much as I'm able, I'm willing to take those calls. So if you call and I answer the call, I'm willing to take the question. If I don't answer, I'm either in a meeting, I'm on a webinar, I'm doing something else. But if you leave your name and phone number, I'll get back with you within 24 hours. And I do check my emails every day. So if you email me, you will get a response back from me that day. I started in the insurance industry in 1977 with John Hancock as a debit agent. There I am, back in my youngin' days. I've been an agent, an agency manager, a regional. This is when I was breaking down leads for my team. I ran the career distribution for American Republic Insurance Company, had 2,000 field agents, wrote $55 million a year in business. And I run a marketing company in Atlanta, Georgia, and do sales and leadership training. I'm frequently a guest on radio shows. I've been interviewed a lot. I'm the past president of the Senior Insurance Marketing Association. I was president of it for 2 years. I am a mentor through the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. And I've been writing articles for industry-related magazines since 2004. Started writing articles with Life Insurance Selling Magazine, and almost every month I have some article in some industry-related magazine or blog. And a number of organizations use my material, the Tax Professionals Resources and NAFA and a bunch of others. I've been interviewed by Scott Drake with Annuity News Now, by Eric Gordon, the Wealth Channel through American College. A lot of companies and lawyers use my material. It's a law firm in Alabama. And today, since we're going to be talking about leads and predictable buying behaviors, you're welcome to go to Amazon and get a copy of my latest book, The Leads to Results, that I wrote with a friend of mine, Richard Bufkin, who owns Target Leads, the largest direct mail lead company in the country. And I encourage everybody to go to LinkedIn and let's connect. I've got a large network. I'm more than happy to make introductions if one of my connections would be of benefit or helpful for you. All you have to do is go to LinkedIn, in the search, type Lloyd Lofton, and I never turn anyone down. Feel free to connect with me. I am a frequent poster on LinkedIn. I write articles and blogs and other stuff, and anything I do on there, you'll get a notice of it. So I do encourage you to connect with me, and let's grow together. Everybody that sticks around to the end of the call is going to get a free white page, a free article. So stick around to the end of the call, and as soon as the call is over with, you'll get an email with the opportunity to download that free article for being on the call. The title of this presentation today is Predictable Buying Behaviors, and as we get into this, you'll see why I am so fond of this concept of predictable buying behaviors. The takeaways for you today is you'll leave this call with an understanding of what typical buying behaviors mean, you will have a good understanding of what markets are predictable, and there are a lot of markets in our industry that are predictable. We'll also talk about what buyers are predictable so that you can target the buyers that are predictable in how they buy and why they buy and what they buy and in what market. We'll also talk about how to do more of what's working and less of what isn't to generate leads. And I'll tell you the biggest fallacy that I've found over the years that agents have about leads. When I talk about that, we're also going to talk about matching your marketing with your sales presentation in order to increase production, because there is a huge disconnect. You know, agents think that their role is to sell a product, and the way they do that is to get a lead. And after this call today, hopefully you'll see that there is a connection between the marketing message and the sales presentation and how that affects your production. And we're going to talk about that. I'll tell you the number one mistake I see agents make is they don't know how to rule prospects in. They're constantly ruling them out. And we're going to talk about how to avoid that. So if we're going to talk about predictable buying behaviors, you know, I was talking to an agent last week. I was at a meeting and he talked about this market he was trying to get into and asked me how to get in the market. I said, well, you know, where do they congregate at? Where's the largest number of those people and where do they congregate at? Because that's probably your shortest distance to get there. So if I was going to learn about predictive buying behavior, what business, what industry uses predictive modeling? Well, you happen to be in the industry that is the largest innovator and user of predictive modeling, and that is the insurance industry. We'll look at two different aspects of it. Let's look at auto insurance and life insurance. There's four components of predictive modeling or predictive buying behaviors. So if you're doing predictive modeling, you want to look at your target variable, your modeling data, the frequency of loss, and business action. So the way that would convert into what you do is, what's your target variable? In other words, who buys what and when do they buy it and where do they get the money from to pay for it and what ancillary products would they want? Modeling data is the leads. If you're going to get leads, you want to know what the data is behind that leads. And in order to understand the data that's behind the leads, it's probably a good idea to understand how and why people buy, and we'll talk about that. And also the frequency. So frequency for what you do would mean how often do people engage in behaviors as consumers that would give you, a marketer, an insurance agent, a good idea of when and how to market to them. And the business action is your approach. And your approach is everything from the direct mail piece to your website, the emails, to your first contact. You know, I always say when I do sales training, the close begins with the very first contact. So for an auto insurer, what they're looking for is they look at claims over a 6-month period. And that gives them a pretty good indicator of what's going to happen in the next 6 months. And the reason they do that is the data is from underwriting. The underwriting requirements are supplemented by third parties. So they look at what the health issues are, they look at what the accidents are, the cost of repairs, who gets tickets, all that kind of data. Then they extrapolate from that and they get the frequency of loss that they have. So approximately 10% of drivers make claims annually. And that results in their underwriting decisions. Same thing on life insurance. Like life insurers use mortality experience over the life of the product. Their underwriting requirements are supplemented by third parties, prescriptions and medical data and all kind of stuff. So the numbers for them, it's pretty predictable. Is it fewer than one, or typically fewer than 1 year of death per 1,000 new policies issued. So one first-year death for every 1,000 policies issued is what they're going to pay out. And that becomes an underwriting decision. So we're going to talk about how you can take the predictive modeling and move that over to predictive buying behaviors and be more efficient at running your business. So what do we mean by consumer behavior? Well, the theory is that consumers make purchasing decisions and show people like us the best way to capitalize on their predictive behaviors. So Think of impulse buying. You go to the grocery store, you go through the line to pay. There's all those little items there that are impulse purchases. So you've got your gossip magazines, your horoscope books, your certs, you've got your little bags of potato chips, you've got your Starbucks coffee, and those are impulse purchases. But there's also rational decision-making processes, and that's what dominates the consumer behaviors and affects the marketing theories. So when we talk about consumer behaviors, the theory of consumer behaviors will predict how they make their purchases. And so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at what the rational decision-making process is and how people buy. In our environment, we're also going to look at the environmental cues that affect the mindset of our prospects. And our goal, your goal, is to help that prospect move their mind shift. We want to influence them because it's estimated that up to 40% of consumers change their minds at the point of purchase, either because something they have seen, something they learn, or something they do. So whether you're selling in person or over the phone, we know statistically that 40% of consumers change their mind at the point of purchase. That means when you get down to asking for the money and getting the signature, that 40% are going to change their mind because of something they've seen, they learn, or they do. And the question is, can we predict that? Can we tell through our sales presentation? Can we tell through our marketing efforts who's going to do that and what the signs are? And I think we can. You know, here's what I see most salespeople doing. Most salespeople think about what most people think, and they put a linear effort into their activity. What I'm going to show you how to do today is to look at how reality really is and have a compounding effect. So every behavior that we engage in as a business person, and that's what everybody on the call is today, a business person, every behavior we engage in should be done as a business person so that we run our business as a business. When I say the difference between what most people think and how reality is, in my experience, it may not be the case with some of you on the call, but in my experience, most salespeople sell the way they buy. So an agent will figure the price of a product, and then in their mind, if it's more expensive than they're willing to pay or more expensive than they can afford to pay, they have a tendency to project that onto the prospect, and they don't even talk to them about it. The reality is people frequently buy things that they think they wouldn't spend the money on in the beginning. The example I usually give is buying a car. I'm guessing everybody on this call today has bought a car at a car dealership at some point. So you go on the car dealer's lot, car salesman comes up to you and says, "Can I help you?" And you say, "No, I'm just looking," right? Now here's the irony of saying I'm just looking. 2 hours later, you leave the dealer's lot with a new car, spending more money than you said you were going to spend. Now, when you said, "I'm just looking," were you lying to him? The truth is, it's not that you were just looking. I mean, the car dealership is not a destination spot. I mean, it is a destination spot. It's not an impulse spot. It's not like you're driving down the street, going out to dinner with your wife, and you think, "Oh, what the heck, let's stop and look at a new car." So we pull onto the dealer's lot because we have an intention of looking at the car. The real issue is we just don't want to be sold, right? So the reason we say I'm just looking is because we don't want to be sold. But let's look at the behavior. So before you buy the car, you take it out for a test drive, right? So you get in the car, you get behind the steering wheel, car salesman's sitting next to you, or maybe he's in the back seat and your wife's next to you, or your significant other's next to you. Before you take that car out for a test drive, do you test anything? What kind of things do you make any adjustments in that car? What kind of things do you adjust? Do you adjust the steering wheel, the seat, the radio, the rearview mirror, the side mirrors? My guess is you adjust the things you use the most in the order you use those things. And the reason you make those adjustments is that you're trying to get the car to fit you. Then you take that car out for a test drive. You come back to the dealer, and when you park the car, you get out of the car. Do you go anywhere with the car salesman? If that car isn't interested in you, you go inside and sit down at the cubicle with that car salesman, don't you? Now here's my question to you. Why are you going in and sitting down at the desk with the car salesman? Are you going in there to discuss which car you might buy? are you going to discuss how much you're paying for that car? If you said how much you're paying for that car, I agree with you. And the reason is because you've already taken emotional ownership over the car. So all of this is predictable. Everything we just talked about is predictable. You adjust the things you use the most in the order you use them. You drive that car around in order to make sure the car feels like it's right for you. And you go into the car salesman's office to talk about how much you were going to pay for the car that you've already picked. So here's the question. How can you help your prospects adjust your product or service to fit them so they take emotional ownership over it? And what we're going to talk about is how that contact takes place and where it takes place and how you start predicting these type of behaviors from the get-go. So let's talk about generational marketing. I'm going to use the senior market to give you an idea of the concept of generational marketing and how this plays into predictable buying behavior. So I'm going to profile a senior client. So we'll say a male turning 65. Now, on average, if a male's turning 65, on average, about how old is his wife? Usually about 62, 63, right? So we know that when that male turns 65 or 66, depending on when he was born, we know that he's going to do three things almost without exception. These are all predictable. I don't even have to meet him, make a phone call, go knock on a door. I already know that he's going to do these three things almost without exception. So I know that when he turns 65, that he's going, that their oldest, if he's 65 and his wife's 63, I know that his oldest child is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40, 45 years old. So this is just predictable. I already know this. I know that their oldest child, the 40 to 45-year-old, their oldest child is 20 to 25 years old. So this is generational marketing. So the market is for the male, and on the next slide, we're going to go into the three things he's going to do almost without exception. So we know that he's going to have some buying behaviors at 65. We know his wife's going to have some buying behaviors, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But if I'm looking at predictable markets, what are the dominant buying motives for their oldest kid? Well, if the oldest son is 40 to 45 years old, if he's married and has kids, then he's either concerned about a house payment, he's concerned about planning for retirement, he's looking at getting his kids in high school or college. All these are predictable behaviors. We already know these are things people are going to experience, their lifestyle issues. I know that their oldest kid at 20 or 25 years old is going to be buying a car, getting their first job. They're going to be concerned about saving up to buy a house. They're going to be concerned about some kind of health insurance. Now, I know you think that might not be true, but I'm going to show you as we go through this how that's true. Now, let's go the other direction. Let's look at his wife at 63 years old. How old could her parents be? 80 to 85, right? So what are the dominant buying motives for someone that is approaching the later stages of their life? Well, they're looking to leave a legacy. They're looking to recover at home after a procedure, and they're looking not to leave a financial burden for their family. So a male turning 65 or 66 years old, this is the baby boomer generation, born from 1946 to 1964. They're the most studied group of people in our history. We know more about them than we have ever known about any market out there. So we already know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, and I'm going to show you how we know this. So, write this down. Take a piece of paper and write this down so that you can have this as a vision board. A male's turning 65, his wife's about 63. Underneath that, write down their oldest child is between 40 and 45 years old. Underneath that, write down their oldest child is 20 to 25 years old. At the top right, next to the male turning 65, write down that his parents are 80 to 85. Now, what I want to challenge you to do during this call and after this call is make a list of the lifestyle changes they're going to go through and what product or service you have that people would typically buy to help mitigate the financial loss or the challenges that their family would face. And that's how you start putting together your generational marketing plan. And that generational marketing plan is something you're going to use when you start ordering leads, and we're going to talk about that. So I said I already know there's three things this guy's going to do almost without exception. I know that he's going to sign up for Social Security. I know that when he signs up for Social Security, he's going to automatically be enrolled in Medicare. In fact, if he's going to continue to work, he'll be opting out of Part B of Medicare. I know that him and his wife have been paying for health insurance for the last 30 years. Even if they've got group coverage, they're still paying for dependent coverage, aren't they? So I know that when he turns 65 or 66, signs up Social Security, automatically enrolled in Medicare, I know that he's going to reposition $1,500 to $2,000 out of the $8,000, $12,000, or $18,000 a year he's been paying for health insurance. I know he's going to reposition that to pay for a supplement. And I know what kind of supplement he's going to get, either a MedSup or a Med Advantage plan. And I know that the next biggest concern is final expense. And I'm going to show you why I put that in there in a couple of minutes. So let's look at what we've talked about here. Before I ever order a lead, call a lead, or knock on a door, I already know so many things about this person. I know that he signed up for Social Security. When he signed up for Social Security, he's automatically enrolled in Medicare. I know that 80% of these people are going to get some kind of supplement, MedSup or Med Advantage. I know how much that product's going to cost because those products are filed in every state, aren't they? I know where he's going to get the money to pay for that product because he's already spending $8,000, $12,000 to $18,000 a year on health insurance. Even if they've got group coverage, they're paying for dependent coverage. I already know that. And this is the perfect time to talk to him about final expense, and I'll show you why. So all this is predictable. But let's go a little bit further. Is there anything else that's predictable? Well, when he repositions that money from the health plan they currently have, when he repositions that $1,500 to $2,000 to pay for his supplement, that means his wife's going to need her own standalone health plan, isn't she? So she's going to need either a simplified issued or some kind of health plan, maybe with an accident rider or critical illness rider. And where is she going to get the money to pay for that? That's also already in her budget, isn't it? And do we already know what this product's going to cost? Yeah, because those plans are filed in every state. So everything we've talked about now is predictable. I can sit down and put together a marketing message and get order leads and do it in a way that will target my specific market for the buying behaviors that they're going to go through anyway. But let's extrapolate. Or is there anything else we know? Well, we know that at age 65, she's going to sign up for Social Security. And when she signs up for Social Security, we know that she will automatically be enrolled in Medicare. Do we know where she's going to get the money to pay for the supplement that she will get? Absolutely, because she's going to reposition the money she's been paying for health insurance. She's going to reposition $1,500 or $2,000 of that to pay for her supplement. You see why we wanted to put that final expense in there? Because the time to help your prospects purchase solutions is when you have the most influence over them. And you have the most influence over them when you are helping them solve a problem, when a policy is being delivered, or when you're doing a service call. But is there anything else we know? Well, we know that his Social Security is on average $1,341. We know that his retirement from work is about $1,200. You can get that from socialsecurity.gov. So we know the average income is $2,500, not counting investments. You can get more on investments on my tax and Social Security program. We know that the wife's Social Security is going to be about $900. But something else that we know if he's 65 and she's 63, we know that women live longer than men. So we know that it's predictable he's most likely going to pass away before her. And we know that when he passes away, she's going to have to make a decision. She'll have to choose to either take his Social Security or keep hers, because at his death, she can't have both. And since the husband's Social Security is usually higher than the wife's, there's a good chance that she's going to take his. But when she takes his, the other choice she's making is to give up hers. So when she chooses to take his Social Security because it's higher, she's also choosing to give up $10,800 a year in income. This is exactly why you want to package that final expense at the time you have the most influence over him in the behaviors you already know he's going to engage in. We're talking about her making a choice to give up $108,000 in income. And we know this is predictable and it's going to happen. The only people that are ever surprised this happens is the insurance agent. because they don't include it in their marketing message. So let's look at how Target Leads, for example. I'm just using him because he's a good friend. I do a lot of business with him. So here's how Target Leads would tell you to maximize your market if we're going for that predictable market of the turning 65. And that is that everybody's chasing the turning 65 market. I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is ordering turning 65. Now, here's the thing. These people that are turning 65, they get the same message from everybody. The phone calls they get is the same. The marketing pieces they get is the same. Everything is exactly the same. It's a numbers game. But the numbers game can work when you do it right. So what Richard says is you mail early, at least 4 to 6 months. Do that out to get the best response. And you got to have a message about the way they used the product, not what the product is. And if you want to know what your message should be and what your approach should be, today, before you go to bed, when we get done with this webinar, you go to Google and you type in prices for Medicare supplement. Hit enter, and then you go sign up at 4 different websites that you want a price on Medicare supplements, even if you're a senior agent. Because what will happen, these are mostly shared leads, and what will happen is up to 5, those leads are provided up to 5 agents, so they're resold up to 5 agents. And when those people call you, listen to their script. And when you hear a script that sounds like something you would respond to, that might be a script that you want to write down. But here's what I'll tell you. If 3 out of the 5 approaches you get when people call you are approaches you wouldn't respond to, look at your script. And if you're using the same words, then who are you to the consumer? You're just another agent, right? So your message has to be different. That's one of the purposes of this webinar today is we're going to show you how to target your message for behaviors that are predictable with your prospects. So when you mail early, at least 4 to 6 months out, you want to mail them all. The quantities are relatively low and it's relatively inexpensive. There's only so many people turning 65 every month in any given area. So I live in Conyers, Georgia, Rockdale County, but I probably wouldn't buy a direct mail lead program for just Conyers. I'd probably buy it for the county, or I'd buy it for the Atlanta area, because it throws a wider net out there and it gives me a larger group of people. And you have to have companion sales. You have to have packaging sales. That's why I put that final expense concept in there. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through this. So Richard says the slam dunk is the increase in final expense sales is dramatic. He sees that as a dramatic increase because he does MedSup and final expense drops all the time. So he says the market timing is perfect for that to be a companion product. And here are the numbers. Their average response rate is 1.5%, which means on a 1,000-piece mail drop, you're getting 15 leads. And the numbers for him, the feedback he gets from agents, that of 15 leads, he gets 6 appointments. They get 6 appointments and 7 sales. And that's happy math. But everything we talked about is predictable. From the marketplace, when I use a senior market example, I'm going to use life insurance here shortly. But everything we've talked about is predictable. I already know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, where they're going to get the money to pay for it, how much it's going to cost, and when they're going to buy it. And if I'm smart with my marketing, if I use a good marketing vendor that knows how to market and helps me order the leads that has a message that's germane to my sales pitch, I know that I'm going to get 15 leads, 6 appointments, and 7 sales. But what we've really done is we've talked about shifting the shopping momentums. So it's important to understand that you have 2 types of prospects. You have a browser and a buyer. And they could be looking at the exact same object. So you go do what I told you to do today. Go out there and type in how much does Medicare supplement cost, sign up at 4 websites, and listen to what is being said to you when they call you. Because that is the object. So some of those people that you contact are going to be browsers and some are going to be buyers. A browser mindset, the psychologists say, is deliberative. They're weighing cost versus benefits. And you can tell that in their response to you, in their questions to you. if you're trained, if you know how to do that. A buyer, on the other hand, is much more implementation oriented. They've already made the decision to purchase, and they just need to be motivated to do it. So remember, people buy on emotion, and they're moved to action by logic. So the trick for you is to learn how to shift the consumer's mindset from a browser to a buyer. So when do you have first exposure to your prospects? It's that marketing piece, isn't it? What we're really talking about, we're talking about understanding buying decisions. People buy on emotion, they're moved to action by logic. You always know what logic is because their objections are related to price, quality, features, or reliability. You always know when it's emotion, they're concerned about the look, the feel, the esteem, the brand. So when they use feel words, you know that it's emotional. When they use logical words, like how much the cost, you know that it's a rational decision buyer. So we said that you have a browser and a buyer. Let's look at it from a business standpoint and see how that concept relates to business, and then we're going to bring it down to your actual marketing. So we're going to do this by looking at a brand name out here. I thought this was really interesting. In 1998, Yahoo refuses to buy Google. So Google approaches Yahoo and says, hey, will you buy us for $1 million? Can you imagine today being able to buy Google for $1 million? And Yahoo, in all their brilliance and knowledge, they said, I don't think we're going to do that. And 4 years later, somebody at Yahoo wakes up and goes, you're a moron. We should have done that. So they go back to Google and they say, we'll buy you for $3 billion. Now look at the difference there. In 4 years, go from $1 million to $3 billion. And Google says, okay, we kind of realize our value now. Give us $5 billion. And Yahoo, again, in all their brilliance, say, nah, we're not going to do that. You fast forward 6 years, and Microsoft comes to Yahoo and says, we'll pay you $40 billion for your company. And Yahoo, in their infinite wisdom, again says, yeah, we're not going to do that. 8 years later, 8 short years later, Yahoo is sold to Verizon for only $4.6 billion. You see the difference there between a browser and a buyer? Yahoo was a browser, and they lost out on Google. Microsoft was a buyer, and Yahoo continued to be a browser. And in 2016, Verizon was a buyer, and Yahoo finally woke up and sold for $4.6 billion. So it's important to understand how that works in the business world, and let's see how that looks with your prospects. In 2009, this gentleman's application to work at Facebook was rejected. He got despondent, went home, and he wrote an application called WhatsApp. And a mere 5 years later, the company that didn't have the wisdom or insight to hire him as a coder bought WhatsApp for $19 billion when they could have had it for just the cost of his salary. So I put that up there to point out to you that the next time you get rejected on a lead, it might not have been a bad lead. It just might be the way that you're ordering the leads and approaching those leads. Let's look at what's happening out in the marketplace. I hear this all the time. See all this nonsense on here. The new way of selling. And I don't think there is a new way of selling. Dale Carnegie wrote a book in 1934, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I think the reasons people buy have stayed pretty much the same. I think the way you build relationships have stayed pretty much the same. I think the method for people buying is changing. But that has nothing to do with the message. And the method is definitely changing. Radio Shack's closing 1,400 stores this year. I mean, who didn't go to Radio Shack? You can go online now and order the products, can't you? Payless Shoes is closing 808 stores because those are being consolidated. What department store doesn't have shoes in the shoe section in there now? I mean, if you go to Kohl's got a shoe section in there. Gymboree is closing 350 stores. I don't think that selling is changing at all. I think that the way people buy is changing, and the vehicle for them to make that purchase is changing. And it's important to us as marketers to understand the buying cycle. And this is how I find the buying cycle works. First of all, our prospects have to have some awareness of our product, our service, or us. And they have that awareness because of SEO, search engines, social media, pay-per-click advertising, banner ads. And this is just a part of your marketing program. So for example, if you use direct mail, in your direct mail piece, it should reference your website and maybe the opportunity to download a free white paper by going to your website. And your website should be able to capture everybody that comes there. Should have a good, strong call to action. People like to research things today. So it's good to have how-to videos or industry expert videos. I've got like 150 videos out there. It's important to do blog posts or newsletters or ebooks, write articles. I've been writing articles for years. So you can partner up with people who do this for you. A lot of the lead companies I work with, they already provide this type of service for you. I know Richard does. He's got a program where the script and everything that's with the package. They like to do comparisons, so it's important to have case studies. Talk about customers that you've already had that had a problem and how you solve the problem. Again, I go back to video testimonials, product demonstration, brochures, price estimates, return on investments. And purchasing is an implementation. That's how people implement their dominant buying motives. So look at what the best practices are. One of the things we're going to show you today is how people buy and where they prefer to buy and what they prefer to buy. And I'm going to show you that with statistics and numbers that are just absolute facts, and it's going to be shocking to some of you. And then there's a post-sales support videos or question and answers or newsletters or social media, things we're going to do after this webinar today. So that's the buying cycle. My question to you as business people is your marketing method, the way you get prospects to draw to you, or the way that you approach prospects, does it include and encompass at least one of each of these in the buying cycle? Because if it doesn't, you might be ruling people out instead of ruling them in. Keep in mind that structured information increases the processing fluency of people. That means that people retain information 40% more reliable and accurately. Everything I'm giving you today in this presentation is structured in a very structured process so that the information comes to you step by step so that one step leads automatically to the next step. For example, right here, I do a lot of consulting with companies. One of the companies I consulted with, Petland, they had trouble converting floor traffic when people came into their store. So the thing that I taught them is that the people that come to their store have two ways of buying. They're either a what if or a how. So since they're a destination store, that means when people come in the store, they're trying to either think about what if I buy and how much will it cost? Or they're thinking about how can I buy it? In other words, can I get financed? And so what I did is I helped them come up with a lost sales analysis and train the salespeople to ask those questions. So how many people do you have that drive by your store every day and don't come in anymore because of the economy? And every business owner knows this. They might not know 18 cars, but they know percentage-wise about how much the floor traffic's gone down, and they can tell you. So how many people don't buy from you anymore because they don't have money or credit? How many people don't buy from you because they can't afford the price? How many people get declined for financing? How many people do you try and upsell but they don't have the money to make the purchase? And you total that, maybe that's 20 people a week. What's your average sale? So let's say the average sale is $200. So you have $4,000 a week. You have $16,000 a month that walks out of your business. Is that what I hear you saying? See how that engages the business owner to understand what's costing him money, not what the cost of the product is, but what's costing him money. So when Petland was looking for a way to do financing for consumers, they weren't interested in lease, equipment, or fees. They were interested in how to capture this money. You do the same thing in the insurance business. So in the insurance business, the questions you get on my 4 Things webinar or get my script program and I go through this. The way that you do this with consumers in the senior market, for example, is, Betty, let me ask you a question. As you age, do you get more healthy or less healthy? And she's going to say, well, less healthy. as you get less healthy? Do you think your medical expenses become more expensive or less expensive? And the answer, of course, is more expensive. You see, those questions are designed to lead down this funnel to help them make this buying decision. But the questions are, it's like being an attorney. I don't ask the question without already knowing the answer to it. So there's a way to do this and make sure that people understand and get how they feel about what you do. So people will forget what you say. People will forget what you did. But they never forget how you make them feel. And you can affect the way people feel about you, your company, and your services with the very first contact when you do that marketing. Let's look at life insurance. We're going to drill down. Pay attention as these slides comes up, because we're going to drill down and we're going to look at these predictable buying behaviors. So if you've ever tried to sell life insurance, and I know most insurance agents always say they have a hard time getting people to buy life insurance, and there's two reasons for it. Number one, the prospect thinks that you want them to come up with new money out of their monthly disposable income to pay for a product that, number two, they don't even know that they see value in. So let's look at what prospects are actually saying about life insurance. Why do they not buy life insurance, or why do they not buy more life insurance? Well, 65% in this survey said that they thought it was too expensive. So part of your marketing message should be how it's affordable, how you can make it affordable. If I'm talking to somebody that's in the 40 to 55-year-old range, one of the ways I talk to them about making it affordable is I ask the question, did you get an income tax return last year? Because if they got an income tax return last year, what that tells me is that they're having too many deductions taken out. And if they go to accounting or payroll and have the deductions taken down by one, that they'll have more monthly disposable income that they can reposition and pay for the product. That's just a conversation. That's something that that's a question I might bring up during the conversation. Another one, 61%, said they have other financial priorities. 55% said I have as much as I need right now. Now, I don't feel like I need any more. That's an emotion, right? People buy on emotion and move to action by logic. So if I was going to be selling life insurance and I was going to be getting leads for life insurance, whether I got an internet lead or telemarket lead or a direct mail lead, I want to make sure my marketing message already encompasses the concern that I know they have. This is predictable. There's nothing shocking about this. The numbers tell me this is what they're thinking. So let's look at how people view their financial priorities when it comes to buying some or more life insurance. What they think is that the required cost of living, mortgages, groceries, electric bills, are too much for them to consider repositioning that money to pay for life insurance. Now, the age breakdown I thought was interesting on this. Most people think young people, 25-year-olds, aren't really interested in life insurance, but 68% of people think that their living expenses are too much for them to be able to afford life insurance. They're not saying they wouldn't buy life insurance. They're just saying that they think their expenses are too much for them to fit life insurance into their budget. And it's ironic because that's the same thing that 25 to 44-year-olds feel. Yet 45 to 64-year-olds see that more. Do you think it's because their kids are getting out of college now? Or because they're moving into this second generation? Maybe they've got parents that are old and they're a sandwich generation. They have to take care of them now. Look at the additional living expenses, internet, cable, cell phones. 63% of 25-year-olds think that cost is more important than life insurance. So all this is important in our marketing message, but is there anything else that we can know about these prospects, about this product called life insurance before we ever approach them? Well, if they were going to buy life insurance, how would they prefer to buy life insurance? And I found this the most interesting. They want to buy it in person, outside of the workplace, from a financial advisor or agent. 52% of people. And if I go back to the 25-year-olds, which everybody thinks 25-year-olds aren't interested in life insurance, 59% of the people that are interested in life insurance that are 25 want to buy it in person. But yet agents have trouble all the time selling people on life insurance. It might be the marketing message. And look at 65-year-olds. Everybody thinks that 65-year-olds can't afford it or wouldn't spend the money to buy a final expense product. But yet 67% of those that are interested in it want to buy it in person. These are all predictable behaviors and should be a part of our business plan. So of those that are interested in buying it, where do they want to buy it from? Well, I know that 49% will go to an insurance carrier's website to get a price. So it might be good to have quoting software on your website. So the statistics, you can go to lifehappens.org. It's a great website. Tells me that the majority of Americans would have trouble paying their living expenses immediately or within several months after the primary wage earner dies. So the two messages here is they would have immediate problems paying their expenses, but they're concerned that their expenses are more than what they could have to afford life insurance. That sounds like a marketing message that we should be approaching with people. 8 in 10 of Americans say the family is the most important thing to them, but only half, 55%, actually have life insurance. So maybe we should be talking about that message, about their family's important, and without that wage earner, that they would immediately have problems paying those bills. And 68% of those who prefer to buy life insurance in person say that's because they want someone local. So if you look at that whole message there, that message is your family matters to you, they need you, and without you, they would have trouble paying their bills immediately, and I can come talk to you in person and show you how you can afford this. That may be the message as opposed to life insurance. Even in the senior market, 58% are concerned about paying for long-term care services, but only 16% own long-term care. So I might go to the 45 to 65-year-old marketplace and show them how they can package long-term care in on a 10-pay life so that they never have to worry about budgeting that as they get older. This might be a possibility to do it that way. I've done it that way in the past. So let's look at the generations we talked about. We talked about baby boomers. That's the blue. We talked about the Gen X. That's the red. And we really haven't gone into millennials very much. So let's look in the marketplace in terms of these people working. So for executive presence, seniors have the biggest numbers. 68% of seniors focus on the executive presence. Who's the most tech savvy? Well, if you look at the green, it's the millennials, right? You're enthusiastic, tech savvy, entrepreneurial, opportunistic. But they have the lowest figures in relationships, don't they? 13%. Who worries about generating revenue the most? The Gen X's. Now, here's the other thing that's interesting about the Gen X's. They're also problem solvers, and they like to collaborate. So somewhere between generating revenue, problem solving, collaborating, that might be a great marketing message if I package it with cost effectiveness. Baby boomers, on the other hand, are cost effective conscious, and they're into relationships. See, 34%. So I take all this information together and I get a great lead company that helps me put together a great marketing message. Let's look at consumers concerned over their financial issues. I think this is really interesting. Money for a comfortable retirement. 66% of the people in this survey are concerned about it. And you're thinking, yeah, well, that makes sense. But here's the irony of it. If we look at their largest concern, that's not their largest concern. Only 17% see a comfortable retirement as their largest concern. How many times have you not approached somebody because you think that you can't address their largest issue, but you think their largest issue is providing a comfortable retirement? 17% of the time, that's not even the case. Paying for long-term care services. 55% of people are concerned about it, but only 11% see it as the largest concern. So here's what's interesting about this. If you go down, you guys can read and see all that. You go down and look at all that. If I go down to the fourth from the bottom, burdening dependents if I die prematurely. That's only a 7% as the largest concern. So we have to take all this information together and think about how can we put together a great marketing message. Well, what's the level of financial concern by gender? We go back to money as a comfortable retirement. For females, it's the most important thing, 68% over 62 for males. 72% of people 25 years old have that as a concern. 72% of people. Did you know that? I thought it was shocking when I saw that. Only 48% of 65-year-olds see that as a big concern. But 72% of people 25 to 44. So the people that you're approaching about having a comfortable retirement, it may be the wrong market. It may not be those 65-year-olds. Those 65-year-olds might be more concerned about making sure that their staples, their food and their medications, don't become a luxury. And it's broken down by household. The income, 50,000 and 70% are concerned about having money for a comfortable retirement. People that have an income of 50 to 99,000, only 69%, and people over 100,000, only 60%. So let's round this out by saying the reasons why consumers are concerned about their retirement. 48% is the overall state of the economy. So when I train agents to make phone calls on either annuities or Medicare supplements, part of the script I teach them, you can get this in my script course, part of the script I teach them is to say that you're calling to answer their question about the changes taking place in Medicare and Social Security that they hear in the news all the time. Because the greatest thing about the news today, as much as we hate all the nonsense we hear on the news, you can't ask for a better marketer for your business than the federal government. Because the federal government keeps dissonance in the marketplace going, so the consumer is constantly worried and confused about what's coming next. And if you use that message, that you're going to talk to them about the changes in Social Security and Medicare, and I gave you a test today so you can prove to yourself that very few people are using that message. Go to Google, type in cost of Medicare supplement, sign up at 4 sites, and listen to the script you get when people call you. Up to 5 agents will call you. Listen to the script you get. Nobody are going to be talking about that. And the next one is, I have not saved enough money for retirement. Everything else is below 30%. So if I was putting together a marketing message, the 2 messages that resonate that should be the most important, in most cases, are never a part of the marketing message. So with seniors, the next part of my marketing is I have to figure the income model that I'm shooting for. What is the income of people that I'm trying to target? In the senior market, most Medicare beneficiaries are not high rollers. Only 1% had an income of over $163,000 in 2015. 5% had an income above $93,000, while 50% had incomes below $24,000. So my niche market would be incomes between $24,000 and $93,000. So if I'm doing a direct mail program, for example, in a specific zip code, I'm going to do people that are 67 to 70. I'm going to do homeowners, and I'm going to do incomes that are $25,000 to $100,000. Because the numbers, the statistics tell me that that's the predictable market to go to. Just to piggyback long-term care on that, 64% of the respondents said that people need long-term care. But look how they distance themselves. 50% said I need long-term care, but only 13% actually have it. My guess is it's because insurance agents don't talk about it. Let's kind of start winding this down a little bit and go back to our predictable market. So I'm just giving you this as a sample market. Before we get off the call today, I'm going to break down the markets and the products that people are looking to solve those problems in that market. So we said it's predictable. The male turning 65, his wife's 63. There's 3 things he's going to do almost without exception. We knew he's going to sign up for Social Security. We know that he's going to automatically be enrolled in Medicare. He's going to continue to work. He's going to opt out of Part B. We know that 80% are going to get a supplement. We know where he's going to get the money to pay for it. They've been paying for health insurance for the last 30 years. Even if they got group coverage, they're paying $8,000, $12,000, or $18,000 a year out of their monthly disposable income for health insurance. We know he's going to reposition $1,500 or $2,000 to pay for that supplement. We know what that supplement costs because it's in price in every state. And we know that's the perfect time to package a final expense because he's already got the money in his budget. And as we've seen from the previous slides, it's already a concern for him. We know that when we reposition that money over, that the wife's going to adhere on standalone health plan, maybe with an accident or critical illness rider. And we know that a couple of years later, she's going to age into Medicare. And we know where she's going to get the money to pay for both these health plans because they've already got the money in their budget. And we know that a few years down the road, her husband's going to pass away, and she's going to make a choice of taking his Social Security, which means she loses hers. And you're already talking to them about that because you package a final expense with the product. You know, our peer group tends to be within 5 years of our age. So I'm 63. I already know people that are 70 years old. I already know people that fit this whole scenario here. So your friends and peers are usually within 5 years of your age. The only person who's ever surprised that this whole life cycle process is the insurance agent. The consumer already knows this happens. This is already in their wheelhouse. But let's look at direct mail as one of the methods for doing your marketing. What I hear from agents all the time is, I need more qualified leads. And my response usually is maybe. But what is more likely to be true isn't that you need more qualified leads, but you need more leads to qualify. And here's what I mean by that. Everybody thinks direct mail is dead. I hear this all the time. I get emails from people wanting to put on webinars all the time about the quote-unquote the new way of selling. Most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Let's go to the experts in there. Let's go to the United States Post Office. Their statistics in 2016 from a study they did said that mail is preferred over telemarketing and email. And if you look at the very first number there, would rather receive mail than a telemarketing call. 87% of the respondents would rather receive mail than a telemarketing call. I take the time to look through my mail, 86%. 84% said receiving something in the mail is preferable to telemarketing calls. And this next one I think is really interesting, which most salespeople don't do, and you should do this. Receiving handwritten letter, notes, or greeting cards in the mail has a lot of value for me. The statistics, the numbers say that the new selling isn't true, and the way people buy is predictable. If someone I don't know wants to do business with me, I'd advise them to use mail. 73% of the respondents to the United Postal Services survey said that. 86% said that they took the time to look through the mail. 70% enjoy receiving mail. Mail is the preferred over telemarketing and email. And 76% value the privacy, reliability, and security of mail. So the thing that I think is interesting is the age breakdown. Millennials enjoy when they receive mail more than non-millennials. So my youngest son is 25 years old. Who knew that he likes to get mail? I know that we think that they don't, but the statistics don't show that to be the case. 56% of people say that receiving mail is a real pleasure. 55% look forward to discovering the mail they receive. And 67% feel that mail is more personal than internet. But are there any numbers, are there any statistics that tell us how people get their mail? I mean, when it's put in the mailbox, is there anything that tells us what they do with it after that? Well, there's two types of people in the entire population that get their mail, and that's sorters and scanners. And it's important to understand the difference between a sorter and scanner so that you know who to market to. Sorters have a strong attachment to mail. The sorter will categorize all their incoming mail and then file important pieces for later use. And who does that the most? Millennials do that the most. Look on the right side there, 44%. Scanners have a lower attachment to mail. A scanner will discard pieces without reading them, which means if you're sending a postcard, it needs to be oversized and it needs to have some attention getting on it. But they still see value in the mail. And who's the largest of that? Millennials. Notice the Gen X didn't change, but the boomers went up a little bit. Now, some of them have weak habits. The millennials have weak habits about mail. It's a subgroup. They don't really see the value in organizing their mail. They still want the mail. They just don't see the value in organizing. And the skimmers are active, and I want to really point this out. The skimmers are active detractors and have no attachment to mail. Skimmers will pay attention only to the items of extreme importance. And who's the biggest of that? The Gen X's, right? fact, the Gen X's are bigger at that than anything else in here. But the irony of this is, of all these people, of the sorters and the scanners, what's the most growing group of these people? The irony of this is scanners were the largest mail moments group to grow by 23%, while skimmers saw the largest decrease by 16%. So if I'm putting together a direct mail program, I want an oversized piece, I want a message that targets the benefits. Remember, a feature is what a product has or does, the benefit or the reason why they would want to buy it. It targets the benefit of it, and I would want my messaging piece to be one that's designed for that largest growing group of people, the scanners, because they're the ones that's probably going to pay attention the most because it's up by 23%. Overall, households have slightly stronger preferences for paper-based bills than emails, which tells me that I probably want to have a combination message. That's why it's important that your mail piece has your website on it with a call to action so they get a free download, or like I did when I started this webinar off. So that you direct them to your website, because a certain percent of them are going to go to your website and they're going to want to get that free download from you. But if you just look at the behaviors of people and how they pay their bills and how they use mail, 82% of the sorters receive bills in the mail, act as a reminder to keep them paid, but that's down. If we go over to, I prefer to have a paper document to refer to bills, and look at weak habits, that's up 7%. So it's really easy to take the numbers there and figure out how to package our programs together. That's why you need a great lead vendor to do that with. Again, 92% personally sort their mail. Millennials are just as likely to sort their mail as soon as they get it as older households. So don't think that direct mail marketing to millennials doesn't work, because it absolutely does. Now, here's something that's really important. Boomers feel strongest about receiving mail than they do telemarketing mails. 83% of millennials would rather receive mail than a telemarketing call. 93% of seniors. I'm not saying that telemarketing calls aren't good. I'm not saying that you shouldn't put as a part of your marketing package telemarket leads, but that should only be a small part of your full marketing program. So we've got a good understanding, and we've looked at a lot of different ways of predictable buying behaviors can affect our marketing. Keep in mind that online activity has gone to 88% from boomers because they're online 6 times a week. 82% are online at least once a day. Notice that's more than millennials. And I found that shocking when I first saw this last year. So direct mail, email marketing, and telemarket leads, having a good mix of that is what's going to draw your market to you. And this just reinforces that the largest group of individuals on social media, of course, are the 18 to 29-year-olds. But what's the largest increase? Go down to seniors. It went from 26% to 43%. So don't think that they're not online. They are online, and you've got to have a great web presence, a good call to action, and you've got to have a good way to engage them. So just to summarize it, direct mail, 75% prefer it, 79% act on it, 85% of seniors say that they're on. Now, there's an interesting statistic here. 85% of seniors are on the Do Not Call list, which, by the way, the Do Not Call list is another name for a direct mail list. So the Do Not Call list is a service that the federal government took your tax dollars, built a website where consumers could go on and enter their name, address, zip code, and let salespeople know that they prefer to buy in person. This is another reason why direct mail is such a great program. 55% of seniors are not online, but 45% are. So you got to have a good online presence to get that 45%. 80% don't wait to collect or sort their mail. And the average response rate on direct mail is 1.5 to 1.4%. And we gave you those numbers earlier. Keep in mind that in the workplace, There's 92 million millennials, 61 million Generation X, and 77 million baby boomers. So when I did that predictable buying behavior and I showed you the 65-year-old and how old is their oldest kid, 40 to 45-year-old, keep in mind that 62% of millennials visit a company's social media site to acquire information, and 60% say they choose to join the current employer because of the organization's sense of purpose. So your website has to convey that information. The Census Bureau breaks down the average age in every state. This is another consideration on your marketing pieces, because now that we can drill down into the numbers, we can look at what the ages are and we can see what their average behavior is. Remember, we said people buy on emotion, they move to action by logic. And just some final numbers here. The internet leads by number, 78% of prospects convert with the first party to make contact. 80% of leads do not close on the first call. 40% eventually convert with long-term follow-up. The first party to contact the prospect has a 238% higher rate of conversion. So when you purchase a lead program, you want to purchase it so that you can block out that time period during that lead cycle to work your leads the best. 88% of leads that eventually convert are contacted in the first 24 hours. The best hours to contact people are 45, 2 to 3, 8 to 9, 3 to 4, and 9 to 10. And the best 3 days to contact people are Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday. And that's just statistics. That's predictable, isn't it? So I talked about generational marketing. A male turning 65, his wife 63. Their oldest kid is 40 to 45 years old, and their oldest kid is 20 to 25 years old. I hope you've got that written down, and your assignment this afternoon is to write down their dominant buying motives. What are the lifestyle issues they're going to go through before they get to that next stage, so the 45-year-old before he gets to 65, and what products or services do you have to offer them that will help solve those problems? And remember, her mother is 80 to 85 years old. So the time to talk to them about those lifestyle problems is before they get there, right? I told you I'd show you the predictable markets, and here they are. Single people, married partner, stay-at-home parent, stay at home with young children, stay at home with teens, stay at home with older children. And all that's are different marketing messages. Business continuation, key man insurance, retired people, pre-retirees, Gen Y, Gen X, millennials, baby boomers, sandwich generations. We talked briefly about sandwich generations. Each one of these markets has a different, separate marketing message. Debts, mortgages, final expense, income replacements. I'm just going to use life insurance as an example. So remember, a feature is what a product has or does, and a benefit is why someone would want that feature. So the features of a life insurance would be funding a buy-sell agreement, securing a line of credit, providing employee benefit, protect a business from monetary loss, pay mortgage and debt. So each one of those is the message for the market. If you look on the left-hand side, you've got your market. If you look on the right-hand side, you've got the message. So I have a special offer for you today. You can get this whole complete predictable buying behavior online course. What you get is 8 lessons on a 7-step sales process that incorporates a lot of the psychology of what we talked about today. In part 2, you get 12 lessons that teach you how to manage your leads, bring out the best performance. And that includes talking about segmenting, targeting, duplicating your leads, and developing a strategic approach. And I hope that's one of the things you got from this call today, is having a strategic approach. In other words, we want you to have a holistic approach to customer relationship management. So there's a customer relationship management program in there that helps you manage all your leads. We're going to help you with sales predictability by putting together a $100,000 activity plan. That means that you're going to be able to see in concrete examples of exactly how to put together an activity plan to get in front of 15 prospects a week to generate $100,000 a year in income. And a special bonus, if anyone who signs up for this program today, I'm going to offer a free one-on-one coaching session with me for 45 minutes. That means that you'll get instructions on being able to go to my website, schedule a 45-minute call, and I'll spend 45 minutes with you at one time, or you can break it up into 15-minute sections, and I'll help you with whatever problem you're having in building your business, getting in front of prospects, or closing sales. And I'm going to offer all this to you for $129, so you get 8 lessons on becoming a powerful presenter in just 7 steps. 12 lessons towards attaining high-performance leads and lasting client relationships. And everybody should be getting an email right about now that has this offer in there and the link to be able to go take advantage of this offer. And the bonus is you're going to get a 45-minute coaching session from me. Everyone who signs up today, you'll get an email that tells you about going to the website and scheduling that 45-minute time. When we talk, we can either do the whole 45 minutes in one sitting, or I'm happy to break that up for you. And I'll help you figure out how to market yourself, what your message is, and how to close more sales. That's $129.99. So you're going to get 8 lessons, being able to deliver a more powerful sales presentation, 12 lessons to learn how to segment your list, target your list a lot better, duplicate your leads, have a more holistic approach using a customer relationship management system that manages all your leads and all the responses you get on your leads. I'm going to help you with predictable sales activity. Remember, predictable buying behaviors is directly related to your sales activity. And again, you're going to be able to see that whole process on creating a $100,000 tool to get that powerful income. And then you're going to get that bonus 45-minute individual coaching. You're going to get all this for $129.99 today. Everybody should be getting an email right about now. And in that email, it should tell you exactly how to get that and order that. I want to thank you for being on the call. My name is Lloyd Lofton. My email address is lloyd@lloydlofton.com. Here's my cell phone number. I know that we had questions. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get all those. Get to those questions. I will get to those questions in an email to everybody. So I appreciate the call. I'm going to stop recording the call.